Hello, Amanda. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do.
Sure. So, my name is Amanda Cupido. I am the founder of Lead Podcasting. We create podcasts that build your leadership profile. And I am also the author of Let's Talk Podcasting, the essential guide to doing it right.
That's nice. What inspired you to get into this?
So, I have a background in radio. I have been an audio lover for a very long time. And um, I used to work as a producer, a news anchor, a reporter. And all of this time, I was making podcasts on the side. So, this was more than 10 years ago at this point, before they were trendy. Uh, and so, yeah, it's just been amazing to be following the industry and watch it evolve. I took my career to doing corporate communications after radio, but always had this like burning love for podcasts. So now it just finally felt like the right time to take the plunge, start my business, and help people get into the podcasting space and get them on board to loving it as much as I do.
So, how does podcasting fit into entrepreneurship? Usually, when people think of entrepreneurship, they think of a restaurant, they think of something that is tangible, but not necessarily, audio or producing or so. How about you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first off, yeah, I'm a service-based business, and I think it's funny most times when people hear that I'm in the podcasting business, they just think that I have a podcast.
Hmm.
um, but no, excuse me, my business is actually making podcasts for people. So at the moment, I'm producing 10 different shows for 10 different leaders or organizations. Um, and basically, we're just a service based business that makes podcasting easy for people who want a really slickly produced show. And that's going to help them. We used to have people wanting to write books, right? And then being an author was like, just a great line to add on your resume. And now we're seeing that podcasting has become that sort of trendy item where people are wanting to say they're a podcast host, but they might not have all the time that they want at their disposal to commit to learning how to edit, learning how to record, what gear do they buy. So we kind of just try to take all the hassle out of it and make something that's really sharp, sounds really great, but has no headache for the person who's wanting to do it. So yeah, I think it's interesting for people to wrap their head around this kind of business model because it's quite new. Definitely in Canada it is not as common or prevalent as it is in the US. I've been following the US market for a while now, and I just tried to carve out a niche for myself in Canada, and so yeah, here I am.
So, was it easy to start?
Well,
Like,
I
what
was
capital would you need? Like, what are the costs associated with it? Like, would you register somewhere? How does it work?
Yeah, so I think my operating costs are quite low, especially since I don't have a studio. We do all our recording remotely, which was part of the pivot we did for the pandemic, and now we've just stuck with it. It's great. So as far as operating expenses, other than the equipment that you're kind of seeing here, my headphones, my mic, there's not much, and a couple of subscriptions to software that we need to actually be able to produce. That's
Mhm.
it. Um, Getting into it though, I invested a lot in equipment in my early days of radio, which all of the equipment translates. So actually, like, these were my radio headphones. The mic that I still use, that like my field mic, my handheld, this is a USB microphone, so it plugs into my computer. But my one that I take out into the field was one that I had from my radio days. So a lot of the equipment I had already invested in as a young journalist, and most of it was quite transferable, which did make launching the business from an equipment standpoint pretty easy and seamless. I had all the tools I needed. And then of course it was just the typical business, incorporating and just getting a business website and email set up and all of that fun stuff, which it's a one-off, and then once it's done, you're good to go.
So, after starting, this podcasting business, how would people monetize it? Like, how can they start making money? What do they look for to start, monetizing and capitalizing on their skill or talent of, being in that space?
Yeah, so I think it's really different for each of my clients. A lot of them actually don't want to monetize. That's not their goal. A lot of my clients are looking for more brand awareness or looking to get a specific leader more out there, more well known. Sometimes, if you are a C suite executive and you haven't had a lot of media training or haven't booked a lot of traditional media and PR, starting your own podcast is a great way to get comfortable, get your name out there, show some examples so that you might be able to get placed in the media more often. So sometimes that's the tactic. Sometimes my clients actually just use it as an SEO trick, which is another like fun trick that I think many people don't think of. Podcasts are very keyword rich, and if you don't want to commit, if you're looking for some website content and you don't want to commit to writing a whack of blogs, I've had clients who just recorded 5 episodes, really talked about everything strategically using keywords, and then put their episodes plus transcripts on their website, and that acted as their content, and that was their series, right? And they were just looking for it actually to drive traffic to their website. But to answer your main question, for those who are looking to monetize, which isn't everyone, and that's okay, one of my biggest things is like, be strategic. What's the goal? And let's go after it. But if you are wanting to monetize, I do find that, like, from an organization perspective, a lot of times they'll just invite partners to have an ad within their podcast. So I've had clients who've completely offset their production fees by just inviting their already current stakeholders and clients to get in on it. And since they already had relationships with them, it was an easy sell. They were able to sell that even before the podcast launched. So that's one route. But if you're an individual, and I don't, if you're someone who's just trying to do that on the side for fun, a lot of the ways to monetize could be from something like Patreon, where you're getting listeners to donate a certain number of dollars every couple months for listening. You could apply for grants. There's a lot of grants out there for up and coming podcasters. So I'd encourage you to look out for that. And of course, you could get your own ads, and selling ads and just making, if you have a niche audience, then you could definitely sell your own ads and start making money that way as well.
When you were starting your podcast business, did you face any challenges?
Of course, there's always challenges with starting a business. Yeah, I think, my background is in journalism, storytelling, and I also have a master's in the psychology of leadership. So really wonderful learning that I've done, but also not not an MBA by any means. And so there was a bit of a learning curve with regard to just what does it take to run a business? What are some of the foundational pieces I need to have in place so that I can set up processes and scale? So I did have quite the learning curve on that front. I would say I had a lot of brilliant mentors, an amazing bookkeeper, just like really great people around me, an HR consultant. I just built a team of people around me to help me fill in those gaps as they were coming up. But in the beginning, I think it did feel a bit overwhelming for someone who I just loved podcasting, and I was like, okay, so I want to do this as a profession, but how can I make that happen? And luckily I had a really strong community around me, but that was definitely a challenge.
So besides this challenge, like, did you have any other challenges when it comes to funding? Like back in the day, equipment might have costed more than what they cost now, or accessibility to information might not have been as easy as now. So did you have challenges when it comes to those things?
Yeah, well, so my business is actually quite young. I incorporated 1 year ago, but I have been doing it as a sole proprietor for more than 10 years. So I think I had a really good transition where I had a lot of leeway time where I was honing my craft, getting my equipment, and I was doing it from the safety of it as a side hustle underneath just my own name as a sole proprietorship. It was once I decided, like, I want to do this full time, the moment I made that decision, work just came my way, and I incorporated 1 month later. And so, and I was able to scale. I now have a full-time employee and a team of contractors around me. So we've grown pretty quickly, but we are still a very young company at Lead Podcasting. So it's exciting though to see how much traction we've already gotten so far. And so I just think that I'm sure there's more challenges to come. I'm still in my infancy, I guess, as far as like learning what those growing pains will be once we continue to scale.
So as an entrepreneur like you, how does your day look like? Like, you work from home right now, you podcast via your laptop, but how does your day, like, are you able to segregate between your personal life and your work life now, given that you work from home most of the time?
Yeah, it's tough. I try to keep my weekends off. It's funny. I always like to tell this anecdote at the beginning of 2021. I said, "Okay, I'm just going to aim to have one day off a week." And if you say that to the average person, they go, "Oh, you want to do a 4-day work week?" I'm like, "No, I want to do a 6-day work week." Like I'm usually working every day and I'm trying to just protect my Sundays. um but luckily, yes, I have actually gone to the point where I do take Saturday and Sunday fully off, which was, it's tough as an entrepreneur. You care about your business. You could always work more. There's always more you could do. So you have to learn how to like shut it off. So definitely try to keep my weekends off unless there's a real emergency. Um and I mean, look at us both. It's a Monday evening right now and we're doing this interview. And I think part of it is just like no matter what, you're gonna carve out time for your business and to do elements of it that you love. Even if it's outside of the traditional business hours, but happy to do it as long as it's not taking a toll on your health, right? So I think I have a good handle on that. You asked about my day to day. So I do really focus most of my work Monday to Friday. I have weekly recordings with certain clients. So I already know right now, shout out to Bandwidth, the podcast I'm working on for the Walrus. We record every Thursday. Here's a behind the scenes Thursday afternoons. That's when we record that show. So there's certain weekly holdings like that I have. And then it's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of pre-interviews with potential guests that are about to come up. It's a lot of workshops. I also teach part-time at Ryerson University, the soon to be renamed Ryerson University. And I teach there on Fridays. So if any of my students are watching, hello to you. I teach radio and podcasting there. So, I'm kind of, I have a lot on my plate, but it's all within the realm of audio storytelling, which I love. And so I feel very fortunate to be able to do this every day.
How do you define success in your field? Like, when do you say, this has been successful, or this has been good so far? How do you define it? How do you coin success?
Oh, I think success is just a feeling, it could actually be
Mhm.
quite arbitrary. And I think it changes, at least for me, all the time. And so, just this week, I was doing some interviews for Duolingo. I'm going to be freelancing for their podcast. And, I just had a really great interview. And, you come out of that recording and I was just like, I love what I do. Like that was a win. I haven't even put together the story yet. I haven't edited it or nothing, but that interview was just so good. And I had someone sharing their story about their life as a referee in hockey, right? And it was just telling me all the ups and downs. And, I walked away just feeling like, yeah, I did good there. So that's a small win, and you got to take those small wins as success as you go through. But then there's like bigger wins, more traditional wins that also really help. I produce a podcast called Lonely But Smarter. This is one just for fun. It's an original from Lead Podcasting. My idea with one of my best friends, we came up with an idea for a dating podcast, and we're really fortunate for it to be listed on the new and noteworthy list on Apple Podcasts right now. It's one of the top 10 dating podcasts in Canada, and that feels pretty good too. That's a success and more traditional sense for sure. But sometimes getting those kind of accolades also really helps you feel like you're on the right path. So I would say it's like it could be one of either end of the spectrum. Just sometimes it's just a small win, and sometimes it's something bigger like that.
So the dating podcast, tell me more about it. Like, how does it work?
Yeah, it's fun. So, Lonely But Smarter, we like to say it's a show about dating mishaps and tangible takeaways. Every episode, we have someone come on and share a dating experience and something they learned from it, very specific learning. Then we bring on a subject matter expert to talk more about that learning. And so I'll give you a spoiler. One of the episodes, a woman came on and shared that her ex would not let her keep her toothbrush in the bathroom because he believed that poo particles would get on the toothbrush. And so then we had a germ expert come on to confirm whether or not that's real. It is real. You gotta protect
That's
your
why,
toothbrush. Yeah.
that's why I have to flush with the lid on.
Lid down. That's it. That's the
Yeah.
trick. And so, but he gets into the specifics. So even if you knew that fact, he talks about, okay, it's actually can propel 6 feet from the toilet. So it's not just the toothbrush. Now think about everything you have around your toilet that's within 6 feet. You got to
Mhm.
protect that too. With people who bring their phone and leave it there. Anyway, the list goes on. So we really get into the nitty-gritty of the learning. But then the grand finale is we bring back the main guest. And in this case, this was episode 4 from season 1. Roop, we get them to cold call their ex and say, thank you for leaving me lonely but smarter. And so that call, and especially on that episode, the calls are, they're real spicy. They're real fun to listen to. So that's the show. Yeah, it's good fun. So you learn some stuff and have a laugh along the way.
What strategies did you use to market your podcast, your business, yourself? I think you are, the face of the business. You are the business in this case. Like, how did you market yourself?
I was lucky that I had a background in radio, so I already had a bit of a following, and my name was at least somewhat known in the Toronto audio space because of my, my work and my studies. But I would really say that I'm active on social media. I know that seems like a cop-out answer, but it's true. I try to post and share what I'm working on. Even again, it doesn't have to be a big win. Sometimes it's as small as I had a great interview with this person. Stay tuned for the episode that's coming out. Really trying to share what I'm working on, what I'm doing. Writing my book, Let's Talk Podcasting. That was a big help. I think it helped get my name out there. I was also the innovator in residence at the Toronto Public Library for podcasting. So I was their first podcasting innovator in residence. That was in 2018. And I think that was really aptly timed because podcasting was really starting to blossom, and having that placement was great because I was running workshops, I was doing panel discussions, I had office hours in the library where people could come meet with me and just like talk about podcasting. My poster and my picture was up in the lobby. So it's little gigs like that too that can really help build your profile. And then of course having my own podcast also helps. So it's a combination of several things, I would say. And I continue to write, even though my book's been out for a couple of years now. I'm a contributing writer for Timber.fm. So they're a podcast website that kind of talks about best practices and what's happening in the industry. And so I'm continuing to get my name out there that way as well.
Have you thought of successorship in your business? Like, if you were to retire, if you were to move on to something for a short period of time, would you replace your position with someone else? How would you do it?
It's tough, like as a fellow entrepreneur, I'm sure you get it. It's like, okay, first off, this feels like my baby. So it's hard to even imagine that.
For sure.
And I know for a fact my business is definitely tied to me and my name. And so, right now I'm working on focusing on empowering my team around me to feel like they're the best in the biz too, right? And so I think podcasting is so new, it's sometimes hard for people to really come alongside in that way. And so right now I'm working with an amazing team of people and getting them just, feeling situated. And I just want anyone that I work with, whether they're connecting with me or someone on my team, I just want them to feel completely taken care of and confident that they are getting someone who is truly the best in the biz, even if it's not me. So that's my focus right now, is just kind of not necessarily a succession plan, but kind of bringing up all the people around me. And everyone has real amazing skills and niche skills to bring to the team, and that's why I'm so fortunate to have them alongside me. But a lot of them have used their skills in other mediums, not necessarily always with podcasting. So so that's where I'm at right now, I would say.
What advice would you give someone who is trying to become an entrepreneur in that space?
I would say welcome. The podcast community is so warm and welcoming, and radio was like this too, which is why I've always felt a real sense of belonging. It's a really nice group of folks. We're and like people are just like super willing to help each other out. There are so many podcasting community groups and like just networks out there and conferences, and the vibe is incredible. Like I am so proud of the medium and the industry. So yeah, I would say just dive in, get to know people, talk to people, learn from people, and then really pay attention to the industry. The industry's changing every day. I'm on like 7 different newsletters, so I can keep track of everything that's going on. But there's so many gaps in the industry. My gosh, there's so much room for innovation and entrepreneurship. So, if you're interested in the podcasting space, I definitely say jump in, take a look at what's out there, where the gaps are. You'll see many, and go for it because it's growing quickly, and yeah, and we're a welcoming bunch.
Perfect, Amanda. Thank you very much for your time today. We really had a very fun chat, and you're a wealth of knowledge. Plus, you're an excellent speaker too. I love your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Bye bye.
Bye.